Hello everybody and welcome to a new video here on the channel, once again discussing FIFA 19, and this time the topic is stadiums and 10 stadiums that I think definitely need to be in FIFA 19 or FIFA in the near future in general. In my opinion, stadiums is an area where FIFA very much lacks. It's the official game of FIFA, it's basically the official game of world football, and yeah, it doesn't have anywhere near enough stadiums across the game. Obviously England's a different matter, it's got the Premier League agreement, and so there's plenty in England, but the rest of the world and the rest of the game is left quite I mean, there's not many at all in some countries. There's only like 2 in Spain on FIFA 18, 2 in France. There's just not many at all. In France and Spain in particular are massive leagues. There needs to be more stadiums in those leagues in particular. And so there are plenty to choose from in this 10, but I'll pick 10 that I think should personally be in FIFA 19 or FIFA in the near future. Now, for one thing, I'm not going to put Nou Camp in there. Obviously, that is a ground that needs to be on FIFA soon. It really does. You can't really keep having FIFA games without having Barcelona's ground on it, especially now you've got the Champions League on it. But it won't be on FIFA 19. Pretty sure that the PES exclusive agreement is still intact. Based on the promotional content of PES in 2019, it very much is. However, with the Champions League going to FIFA, I don't think Barcelona are going to stick to it much longer. I think, like Borussia Dortmund, they might pull out, because Dortmund have pulled out. I think from next year that there's a good chance that Barcelona's ground will be back on FIFA, simply because PES is going to struggle nowadays to keep them in without UEFA licensing. So I do think the Nou Camp will be back in the future, but I'm keeping it out of this list because it's quite a clear and obvious ground that's not going to be in FIFA 19. I'm also not going to include Fulham's Craven Cottage, that's one out, Molineux for Wolves, and Cardiff City, simply because, as far as I'm aware, the agreement still stands that all the grounds get added. So we already know they're getting added. It's not an unknown. So those 3 will also be staying out of this. This will be 10 grounds that have a chance of being on FIFA 19, but quite possibly won't be, and quite likely won't be. They probably won't add 10 new grounds, let's be honest. And so yeah, now let's get started. First of all with Valencia. Now, I decided to include Valencia because I know that they've got a sponsorship agreement with EA, or FIFA 19, whatever you want to call it, and I know their ground was on FIFA up until relatively recently. I can't remember if it was on FIFA 17, but I'm pretty sure it was on FIFA 16, and it was taken out because of an agreement with PES. That agreement has now stopped, and they've now got an agreement with EA Sports. And as much as that hasn't confirmed the Mestalla in the game, I'm pretty sure it will be, simply based on that agreement. It was in the game originally, it won't be too hard to add it back. And Spain is, like I said, there's only 2 grounds in Spain, 2 stadiums in Spain, and it really needs a lot more. So it'll be a good addition to have. So my first one is Valencia. Second of all, I'm going to the other country that I said desperately needs stadium, and that is Lyon. Now, the reason I've gone for Lyon is they've got one of the new grounds from Euro 2016, and to be honest, after Euro 2016 I was quite disappointed that FIFA didn't utilise the tournament more, because I mean, there was quite a few new grounds. There's new grounds for new teams to move into, and FIFA should have used that as an opportunity to get more grounds into the game, but they just didn't. Lyon is obviously one of the bigger teams in France. They're quite often in the top 4, and their ground's quite nice, so it should, in my opinion, be in FIFA 19. Now, my third and fourth picks are going to the same country, and they're 2 of the most, I think, requested by the community, certainly by the fan bases, but by many people in general, and that is Celtic with Celtic Park and Rangers with Ibrox. Now, the fact that these 2 grounds aren't in FIFA, I can only assume is down to the fact the Scottish League might not be that popular on the game. Obviously the Scottish League's not brilliant, and it's quite possible that they just don't want to add a ground into a league that isn't played. They didn't see the point. However, Celtic Park and Ibrox are 2 of the most famous stadiums in the world, and they've got 2 of the best atmospheres in the world. So to not have them, it just seems so lazy it's not a problem for them to add those sorts of grounds. They're both big, they're both like I say, atmospheric, and I think they both need to be on FIFA 19 or FIFA 20 at the earliest. Now my only worry with this is the Scottish Premiership has rights now on PES. It's not exclusively on PES, but it is. They have rights for it on PES now. And Pro Evolution are more than happy to make grounds in leagues that are a little bit more obscure. They need to try and get a market now. They're got the UEFA leagues. Glasgow could be a market for them. Obviously, they do make grounds, and the areas around the grounds, they make them quite pretty and things like that. So maybe it would be good to have them on PES, but I would certainly rather have them on FIFA. Hopefully in the near future that will happen. Hopefully on FIFA 19 that will happen, but we'll have to wait and see. So my third and fourth choices are both in Scotland, Celtic Park and Ibrox. Both need to be on the game. My fifth choice is one of the again another very atmospheric ground. It's one of the another one that's quite highly requested, and it's in Holland and it belongs to Feyenoord. The De Kuip, I believe it's called. It's very atmospheric. It's very loud there, and again, for a game that, in terms of atmosphere, wants to portray itself as as realistic and wants to portray these brilliant atmospheres, I think Feyenoord needs to be in there. Again, Holland is relatively underrepresented. It's only got one ground in there. It's got the Johan Cruyff Arena for Ajax. That's it. And I think it wouldn't hurt for them to add another one in the form of Feyenoord's De Kuip, because I think it's a marvellous old ground. It's a proper ground in my opinion. I would quite like to go there. So yeah, number 5, Feyenoord. I'd certainly do a Feyenoord career mode if it was added into the game, so hopefully one day it will be. Before I go on, I was going to do Borussia Dortmund for number 6, but I've decided to avoid doing Borussia Dortmund simply because I feel like it's inevitable it's going to be back in the game. It's such an iconic ground. It's one of the most iconic in the world. It's the one probably in Europe that I would most like to visit personally, and I just feel like it's inevitable it's going to be in the game. So we're going to go to 6 and also 7 now, and we're going to go with, first of all, Atletico Bilbao and their ground, San Mamés. It's a nice looking ground, it really is, and as I said already, Spain is very underrepresented in my opinion. Well, it's not in my opinion, it's fact really, and they really need more grounds in Spain. They've got their Liga broadcast rights, so it makes sense for them to add more grounds in Spain. The San Mamés Stadium, it's quite big, it's quite nice looking, and Athletic Bilbao, one of the better teams in Spain, and a lot of people like doing Athletic Bilbao career modes because they like to try and be as realistic as possible to their transfer system, which they only sign local players essentially, and I think it would be great to have their ground added into the game. For number 7, it's again staying in Spain. This will be the last one in Spain. I think that you could add quite a few into Spain. I think Villarreal have a case. I think Real Sociedad have a case. Real Betis have a big ground. Just to name a few, really. I think there's a lot of cases to say that should be in the game, but I'm going to go with Sevilla simply because Sevilla, again, they're one of the bigger teams in Spain, and they've had a lot of success recently. I can't remember, but I feel like it might have been in a FIFA before, but no, I don't think it was. It might have been. Let me know. I can't remember. But Sevilla's ground, obviously Sevilla have won the Europa League a lot, and with the Europa League on the game as well as the Champions League, it would make perfect sense for them to also have some successful Europa League teams, don't you think? So I think Sevilla's ground, the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan, I can't do pronunciations. I think that would be a perfect ground to add onto FIFA as well. Now, just like we did with Spain, we're going to do 8 and 9 together. We're going to go back to France yet again, and there's 2 more grounds I feel like should be in the game. Again, France is one of the major leagues. It's fairly underrepresented. Yep, that's how you say it. And first of all, we're going to go with Bordeaux and the Nouveau Stade de Bordeaux. I think that's how you pronounce it. Fairly new ground yet again, and I'm looking at it. It's very fancy. From the outside, it's very different. It's a weird square, and I think it would be another good addition. Obviously, Bordeaux are one of the better teams in France, and again, the league needs more appeal, in my opinion. The only reason I go to France for the most part is to splash a load of cash with PSG. I feel like the league needs more appeal. I mean, broadcast rights wouldn't go amiss either. I know Serie A are supposedly going to get them in FIFA 19. We've already got them in Premier League, La Liga, and Germany. That would leave France as the only major European league to not have it yet. So I hope that they will. And yeah, so Bordeaux, and then the ninth choice and the penultimate stadium, the Allianz Riviera, which is home to Nice. Nice are another fairly big team in France, fairly good team. Obviously, they have Balotelli. I think they had Dante as well. I don't know. And it's a nice little ground. And whenever they're sponsored by Allianz, they tend to be quite fancy. So it'll probably be worth having in the game. It could certainly transfer into the game quite well. And again, it's just more stadiums to have on the game in France, the better, frankly. And hopefully there will be more in France and Spain in FIFA 19, or at least in FIFA 20, because it's an area where they really are lacking. For what is my 10th pick, I wanted to go to one of the more obscure countries, well, not necessarily obscure, but I suppose lesser played, and I've remembered that FC Porto's Estadio Dragao, oh, fucking hell, you know what I mean, Porto's ground is not in the game. And to be honest, I've always considered doing an FC Porto career mode, but the one thing that has put me off is the lack of stadium. I feel like, as much as FC Porto, they haven't been as good in the recent years. They are a major team in Europe, and they should be treated as such on FIFA 19. I feel like the Dragao needs to be on the game. Not only that, it will help give a more of an appeal to the Portuguese league than it already has. I just think a ground like that would be desperately needed on there. And so yeah, FC Porto's Estadio Dragao, whatever you call it, shouldn't have really bothered with the pronunciations, but we're far too into this video now for that to be even thought about. So anyway, that's the 10 that I've decided to pick. There are plenty of others. PSV's ground was one that I was very much considering putting in there. Wolfsburg's ground was another one. There are quite a few. This game, like I say, this game in stadiums is lacking, and hopefully that will change in the near future. Anyway, if there's any that you feel like desperately should be on this list and aren't, I'm sure there's loads. Be sure to leave them in the comments. Again, you're not necessarily wrong. It's just I want to keep this to 10, and I just picked 10 that in my mind need to be on the game more than any others. But yeah, be sure to leave any others in the description below. If you're new around here, be sure to subscribe. Like if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.